Hello and thank you for joining me. This video is titled Mapping Resources. Stay with us. Time spent on recce is seldom wasted. That, I believe, come from Rommel of the German Army. And if you're American, obviously recce is recon. So I just put that point across. So what do I actually mean by it? Well, at the moment, if you have a problem or you need to purchase something or you need to collect supplies, the chances are you jump on your mobile phone or use your laptop or your computer, your electronic device, and type into Google, nearest car parts store near me, and it will then give you a list of locations with opening times, etc. Well, if the internet's off for whatever reason, or it's a grid down scenario, that facility is not going to be available to you. Now, back in the good old days, we used to get delivered free of charge. There was a BT, telephone directory. We used to be quite big, a couple of inches thick. We had a Yellow Pages, we had Thompson, I think it was called Thompson Local, which was a slightly smaller directory, but it was businesses that paid to be advertised, so it was in paper form, in a book, so it was quite easy. You would just look at car spares and there'd be a list of shops that sell car spares. The internet's killed all that, unfortunately. So what I'm saying is, whilst you still can, make a list of things that you think would be important to you. It could be, for instance, a couple of plumbers. You might already have one in your phone, but it might be that you want to write down the address and contact details for a couple of plumbers. Ditto dentists, GPs, doctors, pharmacies, car spares, food stores, pet stores, vets. Pretty much, use your imagination a little bit. Think of everything that you may need to go to or to get advice from or buy spare parts, etc. And make a list, a paper list now, why it's still available to you. The other thing to think about is, say you've got an issue with your plumbing or your electrics or whatever, or even if it's just building, you need some wood. At the moment, if I needed wood, the chances are I'd go to B&Q, which is a big department store. There's loads of them in the country, and it's a DIY superstore basically. I can get whatever I want there. The problem is if the poop has hit the propeller and things are shut down, it would be fairly pointless going to, say, B&Q. One, it is a massive store, nobody lives there, employees travel in and they work there. So what I'd be more interested in is perhaps knowing the location of a few hardware stores or wood merchants, builders merchants, especially those that are sort of family run, smaller businesses, and especially if I believe that the owners perhaps live upstairs to the store, how it used to be. Then even if it appears closed, you can knock on the door and you've got more of a chance of someone coming down, and you might then be able to convince them that you need help and they might open up for you. So I'm just putting that thought out there. The other thing is, in a major disaster, there'll be a designated supermarket and a designated hardware store within the area that is then controlled probably by police, and that would be to safeguard food stocks and building materials, so there is a supply for the emergency services to deal with the incident. So you don't really want to land up going to B&Q's in the middle of a major drama. You're probably going to be a lot safer and probably get a better service at using a smaller outlet or a privately owned business. Now, you can of course jump on Google Maps and type in, car spares shops near me, and it will list loads. That's a good start, but perhaps what you also want to do is actually go and visit these places and see if they are actually, one, still in business, or if it's something that you think is going to be of use to you. Just because it says car spares, it might turn out to be, an online business run from someone's home, and you get no joy there. So you do need to do a little bit of legwork. The other thing you want to consider doing is getting a map of your area, ideally an OS map, and then marking on there resources. So exactly the same as what we've discussed, but actually mark on a map. You can then, give it a number, for instance, and colour coding, blue for water, red for first aid supplies, green for camping shops, whatever. and then write the details so you've actually got an index. Now that would be quite useful, as I say, if the electric's gone down or if your internet's gone down and you're at home. But also, for your Get Home bag, you should have a map in there to aid you getting from perhaps your place of work to your home if your normal mode of transport is not available. You should have more than one route, because it could be that your normal route home is blocked and you've got a detour around it, and it would be very handy if you had a map that covered your area, especially if you get home, and that you've done the same with that. You could perhaps mark on there, or an OS map will show you anyway, but likely places that you could, if you needed to, get your head down. So it could be, for instance, that you're going to actually highlight, I don't know, bed and breakfasts, hotels, a bit of woodland, whatever you like, but actually mark it down on the map so you've got some idea on your route, and also water sources. Now, unless you're in the valleys or high up on the moors, running water is still going to cause you a problem in the UK. Yeah, industrial runoff, sewage, agricultural runoff, diesel, oil, there's loads of contaminants that's going to be in the water. So your local canal, even your Sawyer Mini, is probably not going to hack it, because it won't remove heavy metals or chemical contaminants. So you might want to put on your map, for instance, locations of petrol garages. They usually have a tap for dispensing water, so you can top up your washers or your radiator. Public loos, golf clubs, or I should say golf courses. When I say golf club, I mean obviously where you go to play the golf, not the implement that you whack your balls with. They're likely to have outside taps because they do maintenance there. And this brings us slightly onto another subject, and that is trespass. Trespass in the UK is normally just a civil matter. It's not a criminal matter. The only time it becomes a criminal matter is if you're trespassing on Crown property, if you're trespassing on the railways. So bear that in mind. If you think you're going to walk down a railway line to get home because there's an incident, you're actually committing a criminal offence, so you can get nicked for that. So just bear that in mind. And also there's new laws that have come in, which are basically if you're on private property with a vehicle and you intend to reside there. So if you're going to camp there or whatever, it is now criminal. How it would normally work is if you've caused any damage, that's obvious. But if the landowner has asked you to leave and you refuse, they can call police, and if you don't leave, you can get nicked. There's no arguing about it. I think the laws have come in primarily because of issues with travelling communities, and also to a certain extent with the great unwashed that want to superglue themselves to roads and generally be a pain in the backside. So just bear that in mind. But the chances are, if you do have to stop over somewhere, be it a lay-by or a bit of woodland or whatever, and someone comes along and asks you to leave, you're not going to give them any drama, you're going to leave. Because there's always been in place that they can have you removed. If it's their property, they can say to you, leave my property. If you refuse, they can use force to make you leave the property. If they think that you're going to be aggressive or a handful, they can contact the police and ask them to attend to ensure that there isn't a breach of the peace. But as I say, chances are, if you're caught, someone is going to say, get off my property. You're going to say, sorry, I've got a problem, I'm leaving now. And that should be the end of it. Bug out routes, another thing. Map your resources for that. Make sure you put down on your maps for your bug out routes where you can stop to find fresh water. As I said, it could be a garage, a golf course. You think about it, there's loads of places that you could possibly get fresh water from that don't necessarily mean that you've got to go and try and kill yourself by drinking out the local pond or the canal. Put them into colour-coded groups that make sense to you and do an index for it. Thank you for watching.